Thanks, Claude. I'd open with a big congratulations to Richard Seymour, who I had the great fortune of playing with here, and will be going into the NFL Hall of Fame, I guess at the end of the week or sometime soon. He's been a just incredible representative of our university. He's a great player here and a teammate. I know we got several guys on our staff that'll be going to travel and be with him for that great honor. So congratulations to Richard. Our guys are ready to grind. It used to be a time when you didn't do anything over the summer, or you had a long break over the summer, or you might have a week off, but that's really not the way it is now. It's continuous. I talked to our guys last night about separating summer, or what you would call mini camp, or what you would call summer practices, and training camp. You've got to kind of step out of your mindset routine and refocus. Talked about some of the guys I talked to in the NFL currently and what they do, and try to transition our brain from one stage to the next stage. And we kind of talk about locking in and locking out. You know, lock into what you got to do and lock out everything outside of it and the noise. It's one unique time for a college athlete where you really don't have class. You know, our guys actually are finishing summer school classes, but in the next coming days they won't have any class. They get to focus solely on football. They spend 11 to 12 nights in a hotel where they have no responsibilities other than football, and it's kind of when the toughness and mental and physical toughness starts to take place for your roster and your team. So there's no way to really build for it other than to do it, and that's the stage we're in, and we're really focused on getting better. You know, we got a lot of good players to replace, and we got a lot of good players to replace them with. So it's about getting the right guys on the bus and getting the guys in the right seats, just like it is every year. But I'm excited to get out there and get to work with them. Today will be our first time on the field, putting on helmets and getting after it together. I don't have an injury list to go through, but obviously you guys will want to ask questions, and I'll answer everything I can from an injury standpoint. So open it up for questions.
If you have a question, raise your hand and we'll get a full microphone to you, please. Hands up.
Yeah, Kirby, you mentioned in media days about the team being hungry and separating last year from this year. I was wondering how specifically you've seen that on the defense with replacing so many guys that went in the draft last year.
Yeah, the defense is really both sides of the ball, and special teams has been hungry up to this point. You know, we only spend a limited amount of time with them over the summer and the last couple of weeks, but a lot of excited guys. We talked to them last night about the number of snaps to replace. It's remarkable the number of snaps, especially special teams, that we have to replace. I mean, a lot of your core defensive players make up your special teams, so there's a lot of experience there that's gone. So they've been excited, opportunistic. So guys have changed their bodies a little bit and in better shape, and I'm excited to see them go practice. They're excited to get out there.
Kirby, at media days you mentioned Tyke wasn't quite cleared for football. Has anything changed just in the last few weeks? And then also, we didn't ask about EJ Lightsey. Did he have any limitations once he's got with the team?
Yeah, EJ's been dealing with a little bit of a knee issue, not related to anything before he got here, just from being here. But he's cleared. He's working with us now. He's missed some summer training and conditioning time, but he's with us now and clear to go. Tyke's out there repping, doing things. I wouldn't say he's 100%, but he's doing everything we've asked him to do, and may not be completely clear for live tackle just yet. That'll be up to Ron and how comfortable he feels with or without his brace. It's gaining confidence in those things, but he's doing all the drills without limitation. But with every ACL, just because you're doing it without limitation doesn't put you where you were. You have to gain confidence in that. You have to get back in playing shape. It's different.
Kirby, noticed that Malachi Starks was listed as an athlete on the roster. Haven't seen that before. Do you all have intentions of trying him out on both sides of the ball this fall?
No.
Kirby, you've talked about not being too worried about complacency. That's obviously something a lot of coaches worry about coming off the championship. Why was that not a concern for you, or has it seemed to be a concern now? Have you done anything different to try to make kind of guard against it?
I don't worry about it because you don't we have a reason to be complacent. I mean, I've been on national championship teams that won it all that I was concerned about complacency because there's a lot of them back. We don't really have that problem. So it's not a problem inherent to us in terms of complacency. Okay, I worry about complacency every year for a guy that started and played for 2 years, but that was regardless of the record. Like, it didn't matter if you won 8 games, 10 games, 12 games, or 15 games. You worry about a guy being comfortable that has started multiple years and can he grow. So a lot of that's intrinsic within him of how good does he want to be? How great does he want to be? Does he want to continue to grow, develop? Does he want to improve his opportunity for the NFL? Does he want to be the best he can possibly be? Because I know the guys who haven't played are hungry. We have to keep the guys who have hungry. It has nothing to do with complacency. It's not that, I mean, whether we win or lose every game this year, it's not going to be because of complacency. It's going to be because of the outcomes and what we did on the grass to make that possible. But it won't be because of complacency.
Kirby, you had, by the common consensus, I know you don't look at the rankings, but your defensive back class was really highly ranked. I know you haven't seen all those guys play yet because it's been summer, but can you tell us a little bit about each one of those guys and kind of what they bring to your class?
Yeah, I'm excited. I feel like most of them are not really freshmen because I guess a couple of them were with us in in spring. So the two safeties, Malachi and Ja'Cory, got a lot of work in the spring, and they still got a long way to go to be a viable option to play this year. You know, I mean, you show me a freshman DB that played in the SEC, I'll show you a guy that gave a place. All right, that's the common denominator. Now, every now and then you have a guy come along who's just, you know, I think of when Stingley was a freshman. I think of a couple of those guys that had to play as freshmen. They played really big. It happens from time to time. And if you're going to have a guy be an elite player as a freshman, it's usually at a skill position like receiver, running back, or defensive back. I don't foresee one of those guys just coming in and dominating. A lot of the accolades that come with them, they dropped them at the door, and they go to sweating and they go to work. So we're not going to live off high rankings and what people said about them, because there's a lot of good football players out there that you guys didn't rank high or didn't have high. So it goes both ways. We will need those guys to be core special teams players. We will need those guys to be ready to play in the case of, you know, injuries, targetings, or whatever may be there. But we've got to get them ready by how we prepare in this training camp. And I'm excited about all those guys.
How have guys on the defensive line like Nazir Stackhouse and Jonathan Jefferson kind of progressed over the last couple of years?
I think every day that we're out at practice, you know, we make those guys go over and go against the first offense. That's what we call our developmental squad or scout squad. They get a lot of work in. They get a lot of bowl practice in. This year they got the extra week for the championship game. I mean, that's a lot of work put in to get those guys prepared. They're not Jordan Davis and Vontae Wyatt, and we're not asking them to be. You know, if they were those guys, they'd have been out there last year a lot more often. So we're excited about where they are, optimistic that those guys will be very productive. We're asking, you know, Zion, Jalen, Nas, Warren Brinson, Bill Norton, Jonathan Jefferson, all those guys, the two young guys, Bear and Christian, they're going to get thrust up there and have to go out and compete and give us depth and give us snaps, because we play a lot of guys up front. So I'm excited to see what all those guys can do in the defensive line. We certainly need some guys to step up at that position.
Coach Smart, social media was having a lot of fun with it yesterday. Just wanted to hear your opinions on Stetson Bennett's new haircut and the buzz cut boys and what's that about?
I don't know what it's about. I certainly, there's several guys more than Stetson that decided to get it, and that goes back a little bit to that lock in and lock out. You know, lock into camp, you got no distractions, lock out all the noise and all the social media things, and get really focused on being the best version of yourself. And there were several guys that I guess decided to do that through their hair.
Kirby, your running back core, obviously big shoes to fill there. Can you talk a little bit about what the next guy's strengths, and then what you're really hoping to see most out of him this camp in particular?
Well, I think we know enough about Kenny and Kendall to know their strengths. They're both talented guys. They've played feature roles within drives within their careers here, but never the featured guy. They're both very talented. They both improved immensely in the years here. I think Dale's done a great job developing those guys as pass protectors, route runners. I think the unknown more is Dejan, who's been able to get in a lot of games, mop up, and has really done a good job. He's going to play a larger role this year, and then finding out the two freshmen, both Branson and Andrew, have got to help us from a depth standpoint. So I'm excited to see what those guys can do.
Yeah, Kirby, when you look at Darnell, I guess one, what's he looking like as far as health status and everything, and then two, just how excited are y'all to have him going into a season, I guess one, healthy, and two, with a better knowledge of the offense?
Yeah, I give Darnell a lot of credit. He's worked tremendously hard at putting himself in the best shape possible. When he got injured, which I think was over spring break, going into spring practice, we thought he was in the best shape he had been in since being here. Both body fat composition, body weight, conditioning level. I mean, he was really running well in our off-season conditioning program, and we were looking forward to spring. He re-injures his foot, and from there, he couldn't train the same, and he couldn't do the same things, and he's really in a good spot. You know, he's a guy that, I came in on Sunday, and he's out there running on his own on a day that was off. He's got a purpose. He's practicing to be driven, and excited to see what he can do. It's going to be important that we get him in good physical conditioning shape to be able to go to this training camp.
Kirby, how do you feel about the depth you have at both tackle spots? I mean, it seems like there's maybe a little bit of a guard-heavy team, I don't know, but as far as the tackles go, I mean, how do you feel about the depth right there?
Feel great about the depth of tackle. Would probably be more concerned about guard than tackle. If I had to pick one, I mean, we've got two guys who've played winning football consistently. We've got two young guys we feel good about and think can play good football, just haven't had as much experience. And then we've got to figure out, who the best guards are and what the depth is of guards. But I feel good about the tackles we have. And if anything, we've got to be able to generate some more power out of those positions.
Kirby, yesterday Nick was talking about rebuilding at Alabama. What's a rebuilding year look like at Georgia?
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't think you ever look at a rebuilding year in the front of it. You can certainly look in retrospect and think of things that way, but I don't think you'll ever find a coach that would say that going into the season. So I don't know exactly what it looks like here.
Kirby, so how do you feel with that, getting ready to face off against Dan Lanning in the Oregon game? So kind of, how are you planning to face off against him, given he has so much insider knowledge on the Bulldogs?
The last thing I'm worried about right now is Dan Lanning. I mean, we've got a million battles to face before that. I'm not even thinking about Oregon. Our concern is our roster. How do we build depth? I mean, we're not even thinking about that. Like, we're so far away from that right now. We're focused on us, our team, our connection, and getting the right players in the right spots. If we do that, that's going to control the outcome of the game much more than what he knows about us and I know about him.
Kirby, can you update us on Tate Ratledge and the inside linebackers?
Tate has been great. He's worked really hard at his conditioning. Ron feels like he's in a position where what we did summer training would have been tougher on him coming off the injury than actual football practice. So the football practice piece should relieve some of that. Now, the strain and effort to push off and double teams as we put on pads may increase that, but he's in a good spot. He's been rotating in with the first group and the second group. I do think there is a matter of coming back where you haven't, passed off a twist, you haven't passed off a stunt. There's some quick back guys inside that he's going to take some reps to get that back, but certainly feel good about where he is and his toughness. Inside linebacker wise, you're talking about injuries or?
Just your feeling in general, some of the personnel we might see there this year.
Yeah, excited about the guys we have at inside backer. And those guys I was excited about those guys last year. They didn't get an opportunity to flash and show their talents because of the three guys we had. But, Small Munden is as good an athlete as I've seen. He has to increase his physicality, his toughness. He missed spring because of a shoulder surgery, but he's put on some good solid weight. He's a really good athlete. He played a lot of snaps on special teams. Pop played a lot of snaps on special teams. Core linebackers get valuable experience on special teams before they're the feature guy. So both those two guys got a lot of experience. Sori's come a long way. Tresman and Ryan are healthy. Jalen Walker's out there doing a good job, and then you got Lightsey. So when you start looking across the inside linebacker group as a whole, I mean, I'm fired up to see what the guys can do.
Obviously, replacing Jake Camarda is going to be tough, but how has Brett Thorson kind of come in and filled that role, and is Noah Jones kind of battling him for that punter spot?
Yeah, those guys will be battling out all camp. I can't really tell how he's done other than spring. You know, we don't get to go watch those guys punt and do stuff during the summer. They work kind of independently on their own, so our first chance to see those guys will be here in the coming days. But I'm excited about what both of them can do. Noah's done a good job increasing his leg strength and his hang time, so both those guys will be competing for. It'll be a tough shoes to fill.
Kirby, I wonder if you have any memories of camp days for you as a player, and you try to tweak, year after year, now that you're the head coach, what it looks like, or is it pretty much the same plan year after year?
No, it's changed every year. I think you change your plan based on your team. You know, we had a different team last year than we had this year. Yesterday was our first report day, and it looked a little different than what it was last year. Now, to the eye, to your guys, probably wouldn't be any different, but it's different to us because we have different stages. You know, we're younger in some spots. We need more of this, less of this, more lifting, less of that, more walk. I mean, there's different things we tweak, but I certainly start with the same foundation of these are the days we're going to work. This is the schedule we're going to keep, but trying to make it work better. And as far as memories of camp, I talked to the team last night about, my memories of training camp, because everybody has to get in training camp mode. And I always said I would never be the coach. They talked about how hard you had it, and you had to walk 4 miles up the hill in the snow, and we had it tougher than them. And Shockman and them had it made, and we had to go grind and do all this. But it's very evident when you see the old schedules and the format of 2 practices a day, full pads, picture day in the middle. I mean, these guys are never going to have 2 practices in the same day, and the required off time is different. So the demands were certainly were more.
Kirby, can you talk a bit about how this year's offense compares to last year's offense, especially with the tight end group and in general as well?
Yeah, we've got a very talented tight end group this year. I thought we had a very talented tight end group last year. It just was not always all present. I think part of that is staying healthy. With your quarterback coming back and a lot of the skill positions coming back, and a lot of young players coming back, a lot of the offensive line coming back, there's not going to be huge changes. What there's going to be is maybe higher execution, maybe the capacity to handle a little more information and do a little more than we've done in the past, because guys are in the second year and third year, some cases, of doing it. So, we're going to challenge those guys to embrace the thought of doing more and embrace being better at your execution. It's not what play you call, it's how much better you do it than they do it.
Chris Smith returns for his 5th year this year. You guys have had consistently strong safety play during your tenure here. How much does having him back help, and he might be playing next role at that other safety spot with Lewis moving on?
Chris has done a great job leading that group. I think he sets the tone each day for the work ethic. He's been a hard worker since he's been here. Tough guy, and he plays bigger than he actually is. So we're very lucky and fortunate to have Chris back to help lead that secondary unit. As far as who will be all opposite him, it's a lot of guys are in that mix. Tyke's worked there some, Dan's worked there some. The 2 freshmen will factor in there. David Daniel will factor in there. So we're not looking to find the starter opposite him. We're looking to find the 4 best safeties we can find. We unfortunately last year couldn't play dime in a lot of situations. We didn't have enough DBs. We don't know what that's going to look like this year in terms of, do we have 6 effective DBs, or are we more talented at the linebacker position and we got to have more linebackers on the field?
Let's take 2 more questions.
Coach, can you give us 1 or 2 strengths of the guys that are going to be badly for your guard spots? You mentioned the guards as an issue, and you've got a lot of guys there, but if Truss were to win, why would he do it? If Erickson were to get in there, why be the starter? Why would it work out for him? Can you kind of give us their strengths?
Yeah, the why would be based on how they practice, So I think that's hard, because going into fall camp, training camp, they might have strengths in the eyes. One guy may be better at pass pro. One guy may be more powerful. One guy may be more intelligent. One guy may be more dependable because he's there every day and he's able to practice every day and he's not out for injury. But we're going to base the decision on how they practice, and I don't have that body of work to say what that is, but the guys will roll in there. Warren Erickson will be in there, Tate will be in there, Truss will be in there, Willick will be in there, Fairchild will be in there. I mean, all these guys are factors in there to compete for this job. And we want the best one to win out, but at the end of the day, we're gonna have guys. Micah is another guy that's gonna be in there competing for it. So there's a lot of guys that have played some football, but guard's a unique position because it's different than tackle. You can get attacked from all angles. You gotta play with power. You gotta play against the best defensive tackles in the country who line up across from you. The Jordan Davises and Devontaes are in our league. So you gotta be able to withstand their pressure and them pushing the pocket. So you gotta be able to generate power, and you gotta be able to communicate outwardly to your tackle. So the factors that go into playing guard for us are endless, and we're gonna figure out who the best guys are based on practices.
Kirby, after G-Day, we talked to Kyrus, and he was really open, talking about he felt like he had untapped potential, that he hadn't been the Kyrus Jackson he felt like he could be at Georgia. Just what have you seen since then through the summer, getting ready for fall camp from Kyrus?
Kyrus is a leader. He represents our university the right way. He's on part of so many committees and boards, and he seems like he's been here forever. So I really appreciate what he's done in that regard. He's been a team player. He's got to continue to improve. He knows the competition to create value is, he's also competing with the tight ends because when he's on the field, one of them's not. So for him, it's very important that he knows his role, he understands his role, and he creates value in the way he plays, whether it's special teams or at wide receiver.
Thank you.